Hey guys, I just wanted you to know that we're going to start 13.1 trig functions in right triangles. This is the starting of the unit circle. I also downloaded a plain handout. If you wanted to print that out and take your notes, you can, or you can just jot some notes down and some examples down on a piece of paper. Either way, it does not matter to me, but the handout is available for you. First off, we need to know that trigonometry is the study of relationships among the angles and sides of a right triangle. You were already introduced to this in geometry. Okay, a trig ratio, which we know that a ratio is just a fancy word for saying fraction, compares the side lengths of a right triangle. A trig function has a rule given by a trig ratio. Now, the Greek letter theta, okay, is what we're going to use as standard for all of our angle measures. Okay, so when we're looking for the actual, when we're talking about the angles, then we're going to be using theta. Okay, and is from the Greek letter. Now, we all learned that there are 6 trig ratios, trig functions. We have sine of theta, which we know is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Now, we know that cosecant is the inverse or the reciprocal of sine, so we can say hypotenuse over the opposite side. Secant is the reciprocal or inverse of cosine, which is hypotenuse over adjacent, and then cotangent is the adjacent over the opposite. Okay, now our first example that we're going to do is extremely easy. All I'm asking for is to find the values of the 6 trig functions for angle theta. So we're looking at everything from this angle's perspective. So the sides of my triangle are 8, 15, and 17. Okay, so for sine, looking at it from this angle, is opposite over hypotenuse. So we're simply going to put 8 over 17. Cosine, 15 over 17. Tangent, opposite over adjacent, so it'll be 8 over 15. Now, to find cosecant, secant, and cotangent, you simply just give me the reciprocals. So you have 17 over 8, 17 over 15, and 15 over 8. And all 6 of these are your answers, okay? One important thing that you need to know about the reciprocal functions, cosecant, secant, and cotangent, is that there's 2 ways that we can write these functions and find them. You can have either hypotenuse over the opposite or 1 over sine of theta. Once you get into pre-cal and the trig functions, which we'll get to later on in the chapter 13, this is going to come in real handy. So I need you to put a star by this, and I need you to remember it, that this is another way that we can write our reciprocal functions. Okay, example number 2. Let's go ahead and put that right there. In the right triangle, angle B is acute and sine B is equal to 5 over 8. Find the value of tangent B. So in order for me to find the tangent of B, here's my angle B that I'm looking for, I need this side right here. Well, we all know that to find A, we need to do the Pythagorean theorem. So I have 5 squared plus A squared equals 8 squared. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping the gun. 8 squared. So A squared is going to equal to 64 minus 25. A squared is equal to 39, which we know is A is positive and negative square root of 39. But since we're dealing with the side, I got to take the positive square root of 39. So there's A, okay? Now, to find tangent of angle B, we know is opposite over adjacent. So it's 5 over the square root of 39. Well, what's wrong with my problem? Can't have a radical. So I have the square root of 39 over the square root of 39. So my answer is 5 square root of 39 over 39. There's my answer. Sorry. Okay. Now, one thing that you need to know is on page 809, it has a chart of the special triangles. You need to have these memorized. I need to be able to ask you, what is the sine of 30? It is 1/2. What is the sine of 60? Square root of 3/2. Okay, and also for 45, 45, and 90s. So those need to be just like your multiplication tables, and you need to have those memorized. So put a star by that and have it memorized. All right, let's go to the next example. It says, use a trig function to find the values for x. Round to the nearest tenth. So I'm looking for x. I'm given the angle, 30. So I know that this is adjacent over hypotenuse, so I'm going to be using cosine. So I have cosine of 30 degrees equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Now what did I just write? A proportion, because I can cross multiply. So 8 times cosine of 30 equals x. Well, 8 cosine of 30, you should know, is the square root of 3/2 equals x. My 2 and 8 will cancel, so x is equal to 4 square root of 3. There's my answer for x. Okay? Now, on page 811, you need to make sure that you also understand this, okay? With your calculator, we're going to be finding, if I'm looking for the sine and cosine of tangent, we'll use the regular sine buttons. Now, but if I'm looking for the angles, we're going to be using the shift buttons, the -1, -1, -1 on the sine, cosine, and tangent. One thing that I need you to make sure is in your calculator, it needs to say degree. If it doesn't, then you'll go to mode, scroll down to radians and degrees, and make sure that is on degree. Okay, let's move on. Sorry if I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We're going to look for, find the measure of each angle, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So I'm looking for angle N, and I need to have all the measurements. Let me write this down. I have 6 and 10 right here. Okay, we're looking for angle N. So I've given you the side opposite and the hypotenuse. So we're going to be using sine. So since I'm looking for sine of angle N equals 6/10. All right, since I'm looking for the angle, I've got to use my inverse button of 6/10. That is going to give me the measurement of angle N. So when I go to punch it in my calculator, you're going to push second, sine to the -1, 6 divided by 10, and then push equals. And we're going to round it to the nearest tenth. So it would be 36.9 degrees. So angle N is equal to 36.9 degrees. Okay? Last one. All right, angle B. I've given you the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So we're going to use cosine. So cosine of angle B is equal to 8/16. So since I'm looking for the actual angle, I have cosine to the -1 of 8/16 equals angle B. So I'm going to go to my calculator, do second cosine, 8 divided by 16, and I get 60 degrees. So angle B is equal to 60 degrees. And that is 13.1. If you want to, you can go ahead and get a jump start on the angle of elevation and depression. That is also found in your book. And you also had that in geometry. So you can go ahead and complete these 2 examples as well. They're located also in your book on page 812. Thank you. Bye-bye.